chat with him about another project. And in the meantime, I had sent him a copy of a book I'd written about Johnny Cash called Heartbeat and the Guitar. He ended up reading that book, and he loved that book, so he said, come up and see me. And we ended up developing a relationship. He was interested in me writing a book about him, and it ended up turning into this film that you now just watched here. Thank you.
And have you grown up with the legend, the legend and the myth and the narrative feature of the 70s?
Well, I was born in '71, so maybe I was born like, you know, this kind of nativity scene. Antonino was born, Serpico was shot. I make the movie about him, you know, 45 years later. But, you know, as an Italian-American immigrant, working-class kid, discovering the story first through Peter Maas's book when I was 15, and then, of course, through this amazing rendering in Lumet's film, it was astounding for me because it represented, it presented Italians and Italian-Americans similar to what I was growing up with. People that worked hard, carried themselves with honor, had integrity, they weren't gangsters, you know. They weren't like these mentally deficient like characters like Rocky, who's considered a real person. I grew up in Philadelphia, so he's like a hero. So it was always, you know, it was nice to see that there was this fucking badass guy who did what he needed to do to, you know, make this world work better for everyone. And he really believed in public service as a creative and innovative endeavor. And it's a story that I think that we are always in a deficit of people that are in that position that see it as this kind of calling. Like he says in the film, it was a calling to him. And, you know, there was just so much about his story. And my father died the same year I discovered his story. And then a few years later, when I moved to New York, I happened to hear that he was going to be speaking at the city council challenging Giuliani's policing policies. And I went to watch, and I sat in the gallery, and I was like, this guy, wow, this is... And I wrote in my journal, I will make the Frank Serpico film one day. Because at this point, he'd already lived a longer life than he had in the Lumet version. He was only in his, you know, early 30s in that. You know, before I continue, I'd like to bring up, if I could, Brian Devine, the producer. Would you like to come up? Brooke Devine, would you like to come up? Brian, and the other Brian Devine? Is he here? Is he not here? Yeah. Give it up for Brian Devine, my great producer. Is your mom here? Okay. Let's give a shout out to Sylvie Devine. Thank you so much. Executive producer. Brooke Devine, producer.
A lot of Devines in the house.
See, this is a great merger of Italians and Irishmen. The Irish.
They can work together.
They can. We proved it. So
flipping the whole script.
That's it. That's another thing that Serpico did. So.
Great. Why don't we open it up to the audience? Yes.
Yes. My name's Jerry Shamalis. I'm from Los Angeles, and Antonino, I really want to compliment all of you on a magnificent film.
Thank you.
And my question is, are you going to get wide distribution? This is a film that must be seen. Can you talk a little bit about that? It was fantastic.
Well, can I just say,
your mouth to God's...
I was going to say, yes, we're going to get wide distribution. We're hoping to get wide distribution. So can we, let's do a little applause to kind of get the gods in our favor.
And two things, please vote for the film, and also...
vote for the film, it helps too.
Talk in social media, blow up your social media, and talk about the film. That's the way that buyers react. They like to hear things become viral and talked about. That's a currency now, unfortunately. That along with intellectual currency, there's sort of social media currency. So anyone that wants to scream from the social media mountaintops, feel free.
Thank you for that. Appreciate that.
At a time that we really need whistleblowers, and when you said there are a deficit of whistleblowers, that's not a bad word. because they're exposing truth at great sacrifice, because it's a moral imperative. And what he has done and what Frank Serpico represents for all time, like the agent said, is so vital. And the fact that you made this film is for all time to shine a light in the future. And it's an encouragement for all of us to take a stand, more now than ever in this environment and political climate. Could you speak to that as an inspiration? Did that inspire you at all?
So the question was about whistleblowers and the deficit of whistleblowers in current times, and how did that inspire Antonino, and how has that been an inspiration?
Well, for me, this could go off. For me, the deficit is not just with whistleblowers. I think the deficit is with people that stand up and say no. And it doesn't have to be, you know, Frank. What made his story so compelling for me is that the police walk amongst us in uniform with guns, and they are legally allowed to take life. So they are a visceral and visible form of power, and they can also be, you know, obviously it's an entree point to understand abuse of power. But what Frank did so well, particularly with the Knapp Commission testimonies, pull back that curtain and say, this is really just the end result of all these stages of abuse of power that go all the way up to the highest levels. So it was a prophecy, and so we're living through that prophecy in many ways because of what's happened at the highest levels of abuse of power. So for me, I'm more interested in creating stories that can inspire people to say no in anything that they're involved in. You could be a male person feeling that there's some kind of fraud going on there, or whatever, a teacher. The idea is that to give people the courage to do that, and you know, to not get sucked into allowing what's been happening, which is normalizing, rationalizing, and codifying this behavior. I mean, you know, there is an attack now on leakers.
Yeah.
You know, it's great use of grammar now in the upper echelons of power. Right. Leakers and alternative facts.
Right. Right.
So, but there are no alternative facts. There's the truth, and then you know, and that's it.
There is the truth. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi there. I'm old enough to remember the 1970s. I'm old enough to remember.
Yes. Give him a round of applause.
Thank you. I'm old enough to remember the Knapp Commission. I'm old enough to remember the movie Serpico with Al Pacino. And I'm wondering about your thought process. You didn't bring in any scene from Serpico, the movie, until 2/3 of the movie was over. Did you think of not using it at all? Did you think of bringing it in earlier? Because it certainly did, you know, for those of us who remember it, lift us up a bit during the movie.
Well, I don't know if I should give away my... Something keeps happening here. What's going on? See, there's a conspiracy, so somebody has to say no to this. Can someone stand up and say no?
I think it might be a wireless, so just stand where it's working.
We'll try this again.
Maybe you're out of the zone.
This is part of an act of juggling the microphones. But the movie, first of all, is an amazing. Something's going on. I feel like I'm in Las Vegas or something. The movie's just a masterwork. But as I got to know Frank more and more, Pacino's rendering of Serpico was, he should be given an Oscar every year for it. I mean, it's just astounding how much he nailed him. So I always thought of it as a home movie. Since the movie's about representation and reality, reflection in the past and the present mashing together, you know, what better a source material do we have than this actual home movie of this great rendering of a soon-to-be, you know, done by a soon-to-be icon actor, of a soon-to-be icon activist. So, and you know, I use it as a device, and you never see his face until he's shot in the face. So. Back.
The scene with Frank Serpico with his former partner sitting talking, and his former partner doesn't remember some things. Was very difficult scene to watch, and I imagine more difficult to be present with the film.
I'm in therapy for that now, so I can't really discuss it. I have to have my therapist here to help me. It's what the fuck is going on? This is.
You're good.
We gotta talk. Try that.
Between the lines.
Okay.
It's your spot.
Does everyone stand next to me?
Yeah, gotcha.
So, okay, when okay.
Just talk loud. Without it.
Should I just talk with someone?
Yes, talk without it.
You can do it. You can do it.
So, I'll just talk without it. It's better. I'm Italian. I can talk loud. So, it was over 3 hours long filming that. And it was the most challenging and humbling and emotional experience I had as a filmmaker. My crew was literally gasping at many moments about what was happening. Because even what was left on the cutting room floor was even more outrageous.
Why didn't you put it in?
Because I only have 90 minutes. I don't, if I was making the OJ doc, that ESPN was doing, I can have the 7-hour version of Caesar versus Serpico. But I only had 90 minutes and a limited budget, right? So, but we got the essence of what you see is happening there, and it's also the essence of a cop, of two different cops. And I'll just say, I'll let you decide what each cop represents as a cop.
I just wanted to ask about your decision. You referenced a couple of the current issues with policing, the Garnier incident, some of the, I think you were referring to the Dirty 30.
Dirty 30, that's right.
But your choice of commissioners, Gates, Giuliani, nobody from more recent, why was that, out of curiosity? Was there any response from any of the commissioners?
I try to talk to everyone for sure. No, I just felt like we didn't have to put the pedal to the metal. We didn't have to hammer away there. There was just this little taste of what's happened, especially over the last 20 years.
Well, we're all living it now. So
and we're also all living it now.
We didn't want to
right.
make it sort of a polemic about now. We wanted to make a story about something for all time, that the notion of standing up to corruption and power. And that was sort of in his era. He's sort of come. We literally dragged him out of the woods yesterday to
be here.
And he really doesn't want to keep fighting that fight again and again and again. And they keep bringing him back, Godfather 3 style. And
Pacino reference.
Yeah, that was for you. And so I feel like we just didn't want to beat over the head, what's on everybody's social media feeds, we're all kind of grappling with now. We wanted this to sort of, for everyone to make that jump themselves.
And also, they are the two greatest perpetrators of this particular policing. I mean, Giuliani and Gates. I mean, Gates really amped up. He created the SWAT. He created the whole SWAT team. That was all him. He amped up the drug war, and Giuliani then took this quality of life policing to these obscene levels. So, those two alone, stand representing many,
The titans of the abuse of power.
The titans,
if you will.
At least in that era.
Congratulations.
I know you. Thank you.
Who would you like most to see this film?
Everyone. I mean, I think because the film is not really about policing. It's about an American archetype that tried to do something because he believed in public service so deeply, and it was denied him. He wanted to be a cop. He still thinks of himself as a cop. He's pissed off that he's not a cop, and that was taken away from him because he did his job right. So what I think the film represents in a lot of ways, and that's why I want everyone to see, is it represents everything.
And I also think young people may not, I've run into many didn't know that Serpico is a real person. And so I think that, no, and that, I don't mean that, but I think that the next generation are the ones that need heroes, they need archetypes, they need guidance, a light to shine, to say that you can, that facts are real, that truth is important, and that integrity and all these things, we as graybeards need to lead the kids. And so I think that if you're going to ask me who I want to see it, I think students, young people, people that are going to change the world and can be inspired. I would love to, like-minded people my own age, that's great, but I think that, I think you do everything for the generations that are yet to come.
So we have time for probably one more question at this point.
Middle back.
Way in the back, there's
Yeah, middle back, yeah.
I think that's you. You?
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
I just have to thank you for bringing this to light. As an Italian-American, growing up in the streets of Brooklyn, I applaud you for doing a movie that doesn't depict an Italian cop gone bad. I really applaud you for that. My family fought for years just to teach us honesty and integrity, and you did that in this beautiful movie. And you didn't Hollywoodize it and make it so grandiose of a hero, a heroine. So I thank you. I think it was terrific for 25 years ago, for 25 years to come. The message was very, very loud and clear. Grazie, grazie.
What a lovely note to end on.